Hi everybody, welcome to another Monday mini message with me, Pastor Will. I'm so glad you're joining us today. As you can see, I've got an apron on. A lot of people have taken up baking while we've been home. And I thought since my birthday was just a few days ago, today we'd bake a birthday cake. And so I've got a recipe here. This is the recipe for the best vanilla cake. It says so right here. Best vanilla cake. And it's got a 5-star review. So this is going to be a pretty good cake if I follow the recipe. So let's see what we're going to add to our cake here. It calls for cake flour. And this is all purpose, but I'm sure that'll be okay. So we'll use that. And it calls for salt. Now, it doesn't say what kind, and I really like this pink Himalayan salt because it's really salty. So we're going to do that. What else? Baking powder. Now, I didn't have any baking powder, but it also calls for baking soda. So I didn't feel like going out. We'll just double up on the baking soda. That should be fine, right? All right, next, butter. And I've got butter right here, so we'll use that. And sugar. We've got sugar. It calls for eggs, and again, I didn't have eggs, but I figure I've got these egg beaters. It's just already beaten up eggs, so that should do just fine. And it calls for vanilla extract, so we'll use that. And then it calls for buttermilk, and I thought, it might be healthier if I use almond milk. So we're going to use almond milk instead. Now, I made a couple of substitutions because I just didn't feel like doing what it said. I didn't feel like going out and getting the things that I needed that I didn't have, but if I'm being honest, I'm also not real excited about it being vanilla. I'd rather have a blue raspberry cake. And so we're going to add some blue raspberry Jolly Ranchers to it because I'll bet that'll give it a nice sweet taste. And, well, since it's blue, maybe some blueberries to keep it healthy, huh? And I want it to be sweet, so I'm going to put a little extra honey in it. And you know what else I like, and it doesn't call for it in the recipe, but I like it a lot, is a hot sauce. And my neighbor made a peach habanero hot sauce that I'll bet will taste really good. I've tried it on its own. So since I like it, I'm going to put it in this recipe. So I have all my ingredients, I have my recipe. And then I have the most important thing that I need, and that's my expert baking assistant, Ryan. Ryan's going to help us out here. Come on over and say hi, Ryan.
Hi.
All right, so we're going to get baking, and we'll see what happens. All right, so as you can see, Ryan and I have made our cake batter, and well, it looks a little odd, but I didn't want to follow the recipe because there were some things that, well, it wanted me to measure, and I didn't feel like measuring. And well, I've got stuff in there that I like, even though it didn't call for it. And besides, who needs to follow a recipe to make a good cake, right? And so we're gonna see how my do it my way cake comes out. And I've got the oven preheating right now. The recipe says 350 degrees, but I'll bet it'll cook faster at 400. So we're gonna do that, and I'll check back in with you when it's done. All right, well, our cake is almost ready. It's just cooling right now so that I can try it, but I thought in the meantime maybe I could talk a little bit about the Bible and why I'm doing this. See, so many people, they look at the Bible and they think of it like a book of laws and rules, like if I do bad things, God is going to punish me, and if I do enough good things, maybe God will reward me. And it's true that there are places in the Bible where God says you should absolutely do this, like loving our neighbor and loving God and honoring our parents. And there are places in the Bible where God says you should absolutely not do this, like hurting other people and taking things from them. And those are called commandments, but the commandments are actually just a very small part of the Bible. The Bible tells us so much about how much God loves us, and that God loved us enough to send God's only Son, Jesus, to live for us and to die for us and to come back again into life for us. And we've already been given that promise, that reward. And so there's a lot of places in the Bible that aren't so much about rules, like God is going to watch us and punish us for our bad behavior, but I think of a lot of the Bible as a bit of a recipe. It's a recipe for a good life. And when we follow the recipe, we tend to get a good result. When we don't follow the recipe, well, sometimes it works out for us and sometimes not so well. And you may have noticed when I was making our cake, I wasn't measuring. I used as much or as little of some things as I wanted. And some of those things were on the recipe, but when you use too much or too little, well, sometimes it doesn't go the way you want. And then there were some things that I should have used, but I decided, well, I'd rather use something else. It wasn't convenient for me. It wasn't easy for me to go get the right ingredients. And so I swapped out some things like buttermilk for almond milk. I'm not sure how that's going to go. There were a couple of things that got left out, and one of them was baking powder, and I don't know how well it's going to work to use twice as much baking soda. They aren't the same thing. And then I decided just to do whatever I wanted, and I threw in some things that usually don't belong in cakes, like Jolly Ranchers and peach habanero hot sauce. So I don't mind telling you, I'm a little bit nervous of how it's going to come out. But the same thing is true for us. The Bible tells us a recipe for how we can live, and things like honoring our parents and loving each other, those are part of a good recipe. We're supposed to do those things. And when we do them, it helps us to live better in community. Things like stealing and hurting people and telling lies, those are not so good things. They don't belong in the recipe. And sometimes we decide to do what we want because it's more fun or it's easy, but it's not part of the recipe. And sometimes it works out well, but a lot of times it doesn't. And so the Bible tells us some ideas for how we can live well, not just for ourselves, but for other people. And it's not just about what happens later when we die and go to heaven, but it's about what happens in the world right now. Because when we all use the recipe, well, the results tend to be a little better. One of the psalm writers says, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light for my path." It shows us where to go and how to live and how to love. Well, I'm guessing that our cake is about ready now. You want to try it? Let's go. All right, well, my cake is ready, and, well, I'm not sure about how it came out, but this is what happens when we don't follow the recipe and we decide to do whatever we want. So here we go. I think next time I'll stick to the recipe. What do you think? I'm gonna go get something to drink to wash the taste out of my mouth. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye.